For 20 years, the island of Ithaca has existed without its king. Odysseus left for the Trojan War and never came back, leaving behind a massive power vacuum in a society built entirely on the strength of its leader. In his absence, a mob of ambitious men, the Suitors, have effectively occupied the royal estate. They are feasting on the family's livestock, draining the kingdom's wealth, and refusing to leave until Odysseus's wife, Penelope, agrees to marry one of them. This creates an impossible situation for Penelope and her son, Telemachus. As the rightful heirs, they hold the legal title to the estate, but they are vastly outnumbered. They simply don't have the physical manpower needed to force the occupiers out. Out of desperation, Telemachus tries to play by the traditional rules. He calls the first public assembly Ithaca has seen in decades. Standing before the city's elders, he appeals directly to Themis, the Greek personification of divine justice and social order, demanding the suitors leave his home. But his desperate plea falls completely flat. Pointing to the rulebook is a useless tactic when the opposing force holds a total monopoly on physical violence and feels zero obligation to respect the law. Instead of backing down, the suitors openly mock him. Leaders of the mob, like Antinous and Eurymachus, publicly dismiss Telemachus's reliance on the rules, blaming his mother for the standoff and threatening to consume his estate until they get their way. Realizing the assembly has accomplished nothing, Telemachus breaks down. In a rare display of total defeat, he bursts into tears, takes the ceremonial wooden staff of the speaker and smashes it into the dirt. The depth of his powerlessness is cemented a few moments later by another suitor, Laertes. He warns the crowd that even if the great warrior Odysseus himself were to walk through the door right now, he would be slaughtered by the sheer numbers of the mob. Direct physical combat is a guaranteed death sentence. This is the absolute limit of brute force. When you are facing an opponent who cannot be moved by physical strength and who is completely immune to the law, fighting head-on will only get you killed. Survival requires a completely different mechanism: lateral innovation. Penelope understands this reality better than anyone. As a woman trapped in an intensely patriarchal society, she has no military authority, no weapons, and no physical ability to drive the suitors away. To hold them off, she initiates a 3-year deception, promising to choose a husband only after she finishes weaving a burial shroud. As this timeline illustrates, by day her progress moves strictly forward, but every night Penelope unpicks every stitch. By destroying her work, she freezes time, keeping the suitors waiting perpetually. The genius of this plan is how it exploits the exact prejudices of her occupiers. The suitors pay no attention to the mechanics of the loom because they dismiss weaving as mere domestic labor. Penelope weaponizes their own arrogance to execute a massive fraud right in front of their eyes. Because she lacks the power to manipulate physical space or remove the men from her home, she chooses to manipulate time. True innovation often looks exactly like harmless compliance until the trap is finally sprung. Taking a page from his mother's playbook, Telemachus finally drops the idea of a frontal assault. Guided by his patron, the goddess Athena, he pivots entirely to a covert workaround. The public demands stop. Instead, Telemachus begins operating in absolute secrecy, going so far as to lie to his most loyal nurse, Euryclea, making her swear not to tell his mother as he gathers wine and barley meal for a long voyage. While Telemachus gathers supplies, Athena handles the logistics. Shape-shifting into the form of an old family friend named Mentor, she walks through the town and quietly recruits a ship and a loyal crew of volunteers, entirely bypassing the suitors' blockade. To secure their exit, the goddess strikes directly at the occupier's consciousness. She tampers with the suitors' wine, inducing a sudden, heavy drowsiness that forces them to drop their cups and stumble off to sleep. The physical threat is completely neutralized without a single sword being drawn. If the front door of a system is permanently blocked by an overwhelming force, you don't keep throwing your body against the wood. You build a back door, and you do it in absolute darkness. With the estate quiet and the oppressive force deeply unconscious, Telemachus and his hand-picked crew slip down to the beach, loading their provisions in the dead of night. They secure the ropes, raise the mast, and hoist the white sails into the wind. The ship finally launches out into the treacherous deep blue waters of the open sea. This quiet departure is the exact moment Telemachus steps out of his father's shadow. After failing to command the public square, his successful escape marks the true initiation of his coming-of-age journey. The modern association of innovation requires the luxury of surplus, well-funded laboratories, venture capital, and the freedom to fail in a controlled environment. Telemachus's voyage suggests a harsher point of origin. His strategy is the byproduct of a closing trap. It is the specific intelligence required when every visible exit is guarded, a tool forged by the friction of absolute constraint.